All right, welcome back. The Ghanaian Times starts this morning and says Dodowa Forest myth broken, story on page 7, and also scrutinize Christian media content. Clergyman advises NMC. Streamline illegal mining, U.S. ambassador tells government, and Chinese killers arrested. A photograph of the IGP here. The Today newspaper says chiefs lead operation to destroy Galamsey equipment. And Nungwa still warns public against fake chief. And let me quickly go to the finder. Malaria killed 1,037 in 2016. And that's a story. Comes with a photograph of the First Lady. And the Daily Heritage, Judgment Day for Mahama's Gitmo 2. Their photographs are here. We're told the court will make a final determination on that case. And then one government, one district, one factory policy solution to Galamsey. The BNFT has 100 million for stimulus package. The story is captured on page 3. Let me quickly have the daily graphic and the daily guide. Government NAGRAD showdown looms over biometric registration of workers with SNIT. And also other stories captured here. Ghana renegotiate power compact with MCC. Mining companies destroy parts of Accra Kumasi rail lines, and Ghana Gas strike deal with Chinese company. Daily Guide has GRA to sell Ibrahim assets. Government owes me, he says. And NDC plans evil against free SHS. That story has a banner headline on Daily Statesman. Mahama plots against free senior high school. Those are the stories here on some of the newspapers. My guest this morning to do the talking, David Asante, is a member of the NPP's communications team. David, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm grateful to have you.
It's been a while. Thank
Thanks so much. And then Prince Derek Ajay is a member of the NDC communication team. Good morning too. And thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's start with Mr. Mahama's issue, Ibrahim Mahama. The story on pages 2, 3, and 6 says that the GRA has indicated that it will auction Mr. Mahama's properties to retrieve monies owed it if he fails to honor his part of the bargain with the authority. According to GRA, the brother of the former president is indebted to the Revenue Authority to the tune of 16 million cedis. Now, an assistant commissioner of the authority, Robert Mensah, who spoke, said that a new settlement plan had been agreed upon by the two parties after several disappointments on the part of the former president's brother. So the story is already known, but Mr. Mahama, Ibrahim Mahama, is suggesting that the Minister of Finance owes engineers and planners an amount of 24 million cedis. Now, an associate of him who spoke suggested that following the publication of the latest in a series of stories the paper has done on the subject since the businessman made appearances at the Yoko in Accra, the news items have so far been one-sided and devoid of their side. Now, Mr. Rufai, who now speaks for Mr. Ibrahim, says that I have the authority of Mr. Ibrahim to speak to you on the issue. We think that you have not been fair to us because the stories have been one-sided. So his story is that the finance ministry owes him, and so some agreement were agreed on. And so it goes on and talks about the check and all that. Let me start with Mr. Asante. Now, if indeed checks were issued and they did not go through and they sat down for repayment schedules to be made, and the money was not forthcoming, I guess it's only right that the GRA moves in to say that we are ready to recover or retrieve our monies.
Thank you very much. Let me say good morning to our viewers, and then good morning to your good self and my colleague, panelist. Right. We know debt management and debt recovery is negotiated all over the world. If I owe you, if you owe me, there are several approaches we would deploy or employ to get the debt recovered. And every businessman has in one way or the other experienced indebtedness. Advanced countries and societies even have their businesses thriving and revolving within the cashless enclave. I'm afraid to say that we have not advanced very much to that point where we run a cashless society. But like we know, in other jurisdictions, to owe is not a crime because the system itself revolves on debt. Even the TV you watch in your room and the remote with which you control the TV, you pay it monthly installment. A plan is set out for you. The mobile phone you use, the credit you run. So indebtedness, as a matter of fact, of course, even more to the point, to those who are in business, indebtedness is not a problem. But the point here, which really must make every Ghanaian sit and ask a few questions, is that in 2015, Mr. Ibrahim Mahama, 2 companies, I think MBG and then Holman Limited, 2 companies, owned by Ibrahim Mahama. I find it difficult discussing this matter without bringing into sharp focus the relationship between Mr. Ibrahim Mahama and the former president. It's difficult for us to decouple the two. Permit me to stay on that tangent. Ibrahim Mahama is a brother to the former president. The point is, when you import goods to the Tema port, I think depending on the company that is shipping the goods and all that, you have about 21 days within which to clear your goods. After the 21 days, your product or your equipment are sent to demurrage and charges are placed on your product. And within a specific lay down period, if you're unable to clear your goods, at worst case scenario, sometimes the equipment are even confiscated by the state and auctioned. And when those assets are to be auctioned, you, the owner who imported the equipment, you will not even be notified. You don't even have the right to tender in the bid to buy it. That is how crude the system operates at Temahabo. It's not one government doing. It has been there in memorial, from time immemorial. I have been an unfortunate victim. I had 4 cars at Tema Port in 2011. They were nearly auctioned. It's a bitter experience for anybody who has imported products, services, goods or equipment into this country. But we are talking about a businessman related to the president. Then he brings in equipment and he is given the leeway that clear their goods and pay them later. That is what we are told. From 2015 until quite recently, last week, Tuesday and Friday, Iyoko stepped in and found out, why have you defaulted in the payment of these amounts relating to the duty of the equipment you cleared way back in 2015. Then through the Iyoko investigation, it popped out that these 2 companies owned by Ibrahim Mahama had previously even issued checks to the GRA to cover the cost of clearing those equipments. And the checks were dot checks. 44 separate checks to pay for services or to pay for the cost of clearing equipment at a Mahabo. Right, you and I. Could we ever enjoy such privilege?
That's a story told by Iyoko or GRA, that the checks were that. But Mr. Rufai, who speaks for Mr. Mahama, is suggesting here that those 44 checks were not meant to be presented to the banks at the time they did, and that it was when there was a change of government that someone deliberately presented the checks to make him look bad. This is the Daily Guide story I'm reading to you.
Well, I'm taking inspiration from the dealings of Ibrahim Mahama and Iyoko. So possibly if I had been allowed to land, maybe I would have succeeded in establishing the fact that something has gone wrong. My point is, you and I, citizens as we are, we never had such a privilege some years ago, right? Could you and I have had the privilege and the benefit of clearing our equipment at Temahabo, then we negotiate with the Habo authorities and the Ghana Revenue Authority that let me clear these sophisticated machineries as a businessman to go and run my business,
and
later I come and pay.
There's a facility like that.
And you and I could have enjoyed it, and after 2-3 years...
That's what the GRA says, that some goods can be cleared into bonded warehouses, and then the businessmen are asked to sell, and they pay whatever
so,
is due.
The point I'm trying to establish is that the facility exists, and you and I could have enjoyed it.
Well, for that I cannot tell, but...
And then after we enjoy that... you are telling me on authority, I can go to Temahabo and tell them, these my cars I have imported. Release them to me. Later I'll come and pay. It exists. Anybody watching me this morning can confirm that.
That is what the GRA said. I am not the one saying it.
That you can go to Temahabo and tell them, my goods that have arrived, let me clear them on credit and later come and pay. It exists. Temahabo.
That's according to the GRA.
Beautiful. So the point is that then you go ahead and the negotiation that existed or happened between these two companies owned by the president brother and GRA. A payment schedule was established. Then prior to that, or in pursuit to that, you issue 44 separate checks. Right? You and I know it is even a crime in our statutes to issue a dot check. And there is a speculation, I don't know how true that is, that one of the checks was even drawn on a bank account that had been closed, a defunct bank account.
Well, the GRA has that statement too, where the GRA is trying to react to the reaction of the man who speaks for Mr. Ibrahim, and says that some of the checks, they got to know that the banks from which they were to be cashed, the accounts had been closed. The GRA has that story in the
Brilliant. So after all, it's not speculation.
Well, some of the checks, not all.
GRA corroborates that fact that out of the 44 checks issued by Mr. Ibrahim Mahama's two companies to clear the outstanding debt for equipment cleared 2 years ago, out of the 44 checks, apart from the fact that they were dot checks which failed to clear, they were issued to be drawn on bank accounts that had been closed.
Wrap up for me. Derek will have to come in.
The point is that something has gone wrong. We must admit. It would do us a lot of good as a nation to praise the government of the day for embarking on such a bold step to recover these monies illegally in the bosom of the Ghanaian citizen. I am not so much enthused about the politicization of this matter. Whether or not the man is NDC or MPP isn't material here. What we are doing is that we are collecting all monies illegally in the possession of citizens, and that is what the government of the day will use to develop this.
I'm grateful, David. Prince, I saw the smile on your face. There have been the reaction from Mr. Mahama's camp is that these are there were payment schedules. The fact that the checks were not to be sent to the banks at the time they were sent. These are all reactions from there, suggesting that perhaps somebody is in there to do some damage. Is that how you see it?
Well, good morning to your viewers. And it's interesting listening to the NPP. And the man goes on and on about Mr. Ibrahim Mahama and the fact that he's the president's brother and so on and so forth, only to end and say he doesn't care whether it's the person's NDC or NPP. I mean, viewers and Ghanaians are smarter than that. This morning, we've been served with a meal of newspapers, and we are discussing from the NPP's chairman's newspaper.
It's called
the Daily
Guide newspaper.
Yes, it belongs to the NPP national.
We're not so
chairman.
keen on who owns the newspaper. Is it the newspaper we are discussing?
But is it true that it's owned by the NPP
I
national
have
chairman?
Idea. I have no idea.
Okay.
I'll need to go and find it.
Is he not a Ghanaian?
Excuse me, no, please.
He's not a Ghanaian.
I've been very
I have no idea who owns the Daily Guide.
He's not a Ghanaian.
I'll find out after
I've
the
been
show.
very, very
Right,
quiet.
tell him he's a Ghanaian.
I've been very quiet.
I don't know the owner yet. I'll find out from the registrar general
It's a Ghanaian
who owns the
owned
Daily
newspaper.
Guide. Please,
I've been very quiet. I hope
he will.
oblige
Please
me.
allow him to.
We have been served another newspaper, the Daily Statesman, and I'm sure we all know who owns that newspaper.
Well, I have no idea. I need to find out.
You don't?
No, I have. I need to go to the registrar general to find out.
The President of the Republic, Mr. Akufo-Addo, owned this paper and bequeathed it to, in fact, his father owned the paper initially. It bequeathed to him.
Is that part of
please,
Ibrahim Mahama's story?
Please. Please, allow me. No, please, allow me latitude.
You are right.
Are we here to discuss who owns which newspaper?
My good friend.
Right.
I was quiet.
We are here to discuss who owns which newspaper.
David, that's my job to do.
David,
so you allow Prince to go on.
But that's unfair. I do not think you invited us here for us to come and discuss who owns which newspaper. So David, you allow me to go on. I'll keep Prince on track.
You see, we have the president's newspaper, we have the NPP chairman's newspaper, and we are being told that we should be discussing an issue, and it's so far been discussed on one side. In fact, your intro said that we are now hearing the side.
The reaction from.
So you would have expected to see NDC newspapers also on this platform. We haven't seen the Lens. We haven't seen the Daily, what do you call it, Heritage. We haven't seen all the other NDC newspapers. They are not.
We're here. We're here. Heritage is here.
I think that it is important. But be that as it may, since you are limiting us to this, that's the MPP chairman's newspaper's account of the story, I want you to first have your producer change the thing that is scrolling on the thing. Mr. Ibrahim Mahama is a person. But we are talking about not his personal indebtedness.
Right.
We are talking about a corporate. Number two is that we have engineers and planners put in there. And you're talking about two separate companies that are neither engineers and planners. So why do we have this bias on your set?
Okay.
Now,
we'll
change it.
That.
Please change it.
Yes, we'll quickly do that.
Thank you. Now,
you mean the two companies that are involved in the whole thing? That's what you're talking about.
You have done your intro, and you're saying that we have two companies that are owing GRA. Is that correct?
Right.
Now, those two companies are not Mr. Ibrahim Mahama.
They are not.
So those two companies.
The company.
No, please. Whoever owns it, that is not the matter.
Okay.
Because you told me that we don't want to know who owns the Daily Guide. You don't know that.
Yes.
You don't know that the president owns this newspaper also, and you don't care about who owns the papers, but you care about who owns engineers and planners or who owns those two companies.
The owners of these papers, have they evaded tax?
My good friend.
The owner of these papers, have they evaded tax?
No, please stay out of.
Have they evaded tax?
Please stay out of my discussion. Let me do.
You have a difficulty appreciating what has happened.
I'm making a very solid point here.
You know what?
There is nothing solid about you running around.
It is important that companies, when they owe, that those companies are chased and those companies pay.
Right.
But we do not personalize the issue and draw in former presidents, family members. Otherwise, you know what I'll do? I'll tell you why this is being done by these owners of these papers.
Okay.
It is to scuttle the Ghanaians' interest, the citizens of Ghana's interest in a bond payment. $2.25 billion. And the conflict of interest issues arising from it. The ignorance of the Attorney General of the matter, whether or not there has been cabinet meetings to decide on this. That is a real issue. This is just to obfuscate those matters.
So your point in all this, your point is that
on your set, and I'm looking at your producer should be correcting that as we.
Your point is that this whole Ibrahim Mahama thing.
Please, Mr. Ibrahim Mahama has nothing to do with the GRA. A company or two companies have something to do with it. Let's start making those corrections.
And I'm saying that I am not referring to Ibrahim.
So let's not mention his name again.
The Daily Guide.
So let's not mention his name again.
Says that GRA should sell Ibrahim's assets. That's the story we're discussing.
So
my job is not to go into who owns the companies. I am just reviewing the story on the Daily Guide.
Until we change Ibrahim's name from the set to the two companies that we are discussing, I think that the owner of this paper, you know his name, right?
I don't know.
You don't know his name?
No.
You want us to discuss his name?
No, that's not.
But you know his name, don't you?
No, I don't know his name.
So change the thing. Change the name.
No. So your point is that this is only to beat down what is happening with the bond.
Exactly. That's the truth. Don't you know that? You and the media.
I don't know.
Look,
I don't know.
The biggest issue happening in Ghana right now is what? $2.2 billion.
Okay.
So, and how it was procured by the government of Ghana secretly.
Okay, David.
On the blind side of everybody.
Prince's suggestion is that this whole thing about the GRA, the issue of Mr. Ibrahim's indebtedness to it, is all because perhaps a government want to keep down the issue of the $2.25 billion dollar bond.
Thank you very much. Right. I'm sure our viewers are having an interesting laugh this morning.
That's your government, our government.
When you have such a fine and brilliant opportunity to discuss a matter of a man who is evading tax.
A man, a company, or companies. Which is it?
The company doesn't have an owner?
Please.
It doesn't have an owner?
Okay, it's because
then you have...
It's because of the owner
you
are chasing him.
I wish
you have a brilliant opportunity to discuss
there are people watching
a
us
national
and so allow
issue.
David to learn so that we allow
This
our
is
viewers
where
to
we
have,
find ourselves. A business entity has defaulted in payment of equipment cleared at the harbour. Worse to complicate the matter, you issue DOD checks. To make the matter further more criminal, the DOD checks you issued were to be drawn on accounts that are defunct, dead, and closed. Then we are discussing this matter. You have nothing to say to Ghanaians but to tell us who the owner of the publishers of the newspapers are. We are not so interested. I would do you the honor of decoupling who owns the company from the subject matter. Okay, I will do so. I won't mention the name of Ibrahim Mahama again. Now let's talk about the substantive matter.
Thank you very
much. The
much.
matter is that
quickly. We are wrapping up on
almost 13 million Ghana cedis sitting in the bosom of two companies. We don't care who owns those companies.
GRA is saying something different. Yoko is saying something different.
Let us assume it's 1,000 Ghana. For the purposes of your argument, it's 1,000 Ghana. That the individual or those two companies own the state. Why did we sit down for it to take 3 years for such a criminal activity to sit in our books until a change in government for Iyoko to initiate investigation into that matter? But for the fact that we had a change in government, would these issues have come up onto the table for discussion for the monies to be retrieved? You and I, as young men who need money to advance the course of development of this nation, do you not think it is prudent for these monies to be retrieved regardless of whoever owns the company?
So can I have my one?
All right, this is better for you.
Okay.
Without mentioning Ibrahim Mahama's name.
Okay.
David,
now you can discuss the matter without telling us.
I think Prince is back now. Okay.
I think that now that we have established the fact that there are companies who owe and not personalities, I think that the issues are very clear. A company or companies have done business for the government of Ghana, for which they are supposed to be paid. The government of Ghana has not paid them because there's been a freeze on payment to contractors, generally, by the government. Then a government agency, the Ghana Revenue Authority, which is owed, is sitting down, has not gone to retrieve the money, and then a separate government arm, Iyoko, goes to retrieve the money on the blind side of the GRA. That tells you immediately that something is amiss. Two arms of government, or two sides of the same, one doesn't know what the other is doing, and this one says it's doing something on behalf of this one. Then there's conflicting information. One says you owe this much, one says you owe that. But you see, before all of this, we had a certain member of parliament on the NPP side, Mr. Ken, what's his name? Kennedy Ajapong, claimed that until Ibrahim Mahama is imprisoned, he would drink poison and die. That's what sparked all of this. And all of this, that's how it started. So is this an attempt by the NPP to save the life of Kennedy Ajapong? We don't know. So somebody must have gone to trigger Iyoko, and Iyoko has been abused severally. BNI has been abused severally. We all know this. And I'm saying that, you see, as citizens of this country, if we want to build a country, we must build it on institution by institution basis. So I think that every company that owes must be pursued and they must pay. That is not in question.
Right.
But we should not politicize and draw the individual persons into it. Because I'll tell you why. Now, when the issue of the bond was being discussed vigorously, the issue of conflict of interest came up. And the issue of conflict of interest came up because of the personality of the finance minister. The finance minister owns one of the companies that is, the Enterprise Group, of which he had gone to borrow from his friend, who is also a member of that same group. His wife is also on that group.
Point is, no, I'm saying that personality in here.
No, I'm saying
because
that,
I'm moving from this topic to another.
Please let me land.
Okay.
Now you have the Attorney General, the sitting Attorney General, also on that company. That's it, and they go and borrow from themselves. Now we are not told whether cabinet in its entirety, which is a very important organ of the government, sat to discuss and decide on this thing. We are not told also whether the president approved this thing.
Prince, what is your point?
No, all I'm saying is that, you see,
well, what
as we
point
discussed,
I want to know the point you're making when you go that tangent.
Yeah, I'm saying to you that
let us build, we should stay away from discussing
we've dealt with
personality.
And I'm hoping that going forward, we'll not hear Ibrahim's name come up again in all of these discussions.
We should hear Kennedy Japon's name.
Please.
But we should hear Kennedy Japon's name.
Please.
That is good.
Please. I'm saying that we should not be hearing about the personalities. We should be hearing about the issues. Because when it came to the bond issues, you are telling us that we should not look at even the personalities, where even the personalities in this particular instance mattered because of the conflict of interest of those personalities. The Attorney General said she didn't know, so she couldn't have given legal advice. There was no cabinet meeting because there's no cabinet in place, even over 105 days. The Vice President tells us about an achievement a day, but they cannot achieve getting a cabinet named even when you have 110 people to choose from. Is that too difficult to do? Right. And then you go and get money from your friends. Right. Whether it is laundered money, whether it is drug money, nobody knows and nobody cares.
Prince,
that is what issue.
I'm grateful.
And you try to move away from that issue by smuggling in Ibrahim Mahama to make news over a former president. We have a current president. We have current issues, and the Ghanaian people want to know that they are not going to have SHS funded with drug money. We don't want to see our roads being paid with drugs money, laundered money. We don't want to see tax havens giving us money. Those are the issues Ghanaians want to know about.
Station wouldn't want to
I haven't said it is the case. I said we want to know that it is not the case.
Yes, so
we must discuss and get to the bottom of that.
Just be careful.
Right, I think the point must be established. Just a quick one, sir.
Yes.
The point must be established that something has gone wrong.
Right. With the bond,
we need
we all agree
to retrieve the monies those two companies
they've run away from Woyomi. They promised us Woyomi. They've run away from Woyomi. They promised us Woyomi. They've run away from Woyomi.
We don't care whether you sit here and bastardize a state institution or not.
Let's
but what we are saying is we will retrieve the money.
And
we will use the money.
Retrieve that money. Retrieve the Woyomi money. But we want to know about the bond too.
Gentlemen, don't compel me to put off your microphones. Now, Daily Heritage has two stories. Laws on Galamsey must be made to work. Government's one district, one factory policy solution to Galamsey. Daily Guide has Minister sacks 9 Galamsey inspectors. The Today newspaper publishes a story that says that the chiefs lead operation to destroy Galamsey equipment. So all these papers carrying the Galamsey story on and on. Prince, let me begin with you. Yeah. We've gotten to a point where we're told that the minister has sacked 9 Galamsey mining inspectors. Chiefs are leading the operation to destroy Galamsey equipment. Can we say that we're making some inroads into our efforts at dealing with this problem?
Well, I would say that first and foremost, the Galamsey menace is a threat to our very survival. I've seen rivers and water bodies that have been destroyed by activities of Galamsey people, lands that have been degraded beyond, agricultural purposes and so on. Very fertile lands have been rendered virtually useless. We have mercury and other heavy metal poisoning that has occurred, some of which might take a long time to, as it were, be gotten rid of. And then we have the drying up of our water bodies. We've listened to the Ghana Water and Sewage Company indicate that in some places and some regions, about 4 regions, they are not able to, as it were, make the water potable. No matter the amount of chemicals they put, in some instances, where you need 1 drum of chemical to, make the water useful, 3 drams of water does not even allow it to coagulate, let alone for you to have it separated from, to have the water, coming. The previous government, that's the NDC administration, invested heavily in the water sector. If you go to Chebi, Apedra, and so on, in the 4-town water projects, you go to several parts of the country. We have different kinds of water systems that were put. We invested heavily Ghanaian money in there. In fact, if you come to Accra, the desalination, for me, is one of the key things that this new government must perhaps pursue going forward with the current menace that we have, because the sea, fortunately, is still available. And if the technology does exist, and we have proved during our tenure that it is possible, they should perhaps pursue a lot more whilst we try to get the water things back. This is a government that wants to pursue agriculture in a very big way. You're talking about, planting for food and jobs. And therefore, they will need agricultural lands to, obviously pursue this project, very good project, going forward. But then if you do not stop this and further lands are degraded, then it's going to run into difficulty. Even that project, will come to that, it's actually an NDC project that we got funding for through the Canadian government. It's called the Maple project, but I mean, that's a separate matter. But I think that the issue of the chiefs, leading the charge, I think it's a little problematic. I listened to the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, John Peter Mewu, and I think that he made first an initial declaration that in 3 weeks he was going to, end all of this. That 3 weeks expired some days ago. Now he's extended it to 30 days with a first 30 days, making 60 days. I mean, the goalpost keeps changing. But I want to commend him at least for going around with his deputies to first-hand see and in some instances make some pronouncements. But one pronouncement that he made, which I think are now being credited to the chiefs, perhaps he's running away from the pronouncement. He said he was going to blast the equipment.
Right.
So it's not a chief, unless Peter Mewu, we are being told today, is a chief. You see,
that was his suggestion.
So let us credit him with what he says. Let us not allow people to say things and then we go and put it on chiefs. The minister said he was going to blast the equipment. Now people are saying it's a very stupid, statement, because if you have equipment that can be deployed to be used for other things, these are heavy, equipment that are used in dredging and so on, can be used. In fact, engineers and planners recently, remember when we had the flooding, deployed. That's Ibrahim Mahama. He deployed this equipment to help in making Accra, not flood prone. We've enjoyed that facility. Why do you want to blast these equipments? Seize them, yes, but use them for better, Now there's a backlash and you say it's the chiefs. It's not true. There are chiefs in this country. Chiefs are custodians of lands, yeah? And then we have the states. State lands are vested in the president, and he in turn vests it in the lands minister, and then the lands commission administers on our behalf.
Right.
So let us give people their due. He says he sacked about 9 people. We are told it's actually in excess of 9. He saw one person who was sleeping drunk, and instead of firing that person, he brings the person to headquarters. For what purpose? There's a disconnect. You have sacked some people, and then the drunk person who's not working, you've brought to Accra. I don't get it. If we want to fight this thing, there must be a concerted effort. So you can see the media, doing a good job in, making sure that this agenda is set and prosecuted. You see chiefs and civil society groups coming on board, which is positive. But I think that they have not served the interests of Ghanaians well. Galamsey did not start today. So if these people who are coalescing right now around this government had coalesced around earlier governments, and I'm not talking about the NDC, because Galamsey didn't start at the NDC time, started way back, we would have gotten a situation where this would have been corrected. I remember during the tenure of the former president, John Dramani Mahama, when he went around trying to start this thing, people deliberately, these same media people and these same chiefs, deliberately did not cooperate with him. I remember when he indicated that Tebi, for example, was the headquarters of Galamsey. And it is indeed true. They are confirming this by the pictures and confirming it by accounts. There's
Galamsey activity there.
It's not just Galamsey activity. You see, let's be fair to the facts. You see, we all want to help, because at the end of the day, if Galamsey kills all of us, doesn't matter whether you're NDC or MPP, let's say the truth. The most Galamsey activity occurs in some particular regions, even though it's widespread. And so when you say headquarters, it is not derogatory. It wasn't meant to be. Unfortunate as perhaps they took it. So an apology was in order. An apology was rendered. End of matter. Should we be too big in ourselves? So because of a certain feeling, you will not help for a certain problem that's going to kill you to be solved until the son of your area comes before you want to coalesce? I think that is wrong. But look, be that as it may, it's already happened. We would all help and support for this to be cured so that we can move forward. I think that if this government is going to be smart, the equipment that have been gotten, it can be used to dredge the dams. You need water. You say you do 1 dam per village. 6,000 or 8,000 or so villages exist in the northern territories that you're talking about. Deploy these about 500 plus heavy equipment. Go and start digging the dams so we can have water in the rainy season as a way of circumventing the current pollution, whilst we take time to clear the land and engage the youth, the same youth, engage them in filling the place and doing the proper things, so that the Maple project, which they have now called planting for food and jobs, can be done. The Maple project was an NDC project which was fully funded by the Canadian government. Look, you cannot get in 40 days.
So the point we're making is that at least we have made some inroads into the fight, but you think that we should
stop the politicization. The media are political entities. The chiefs are politicians.
David, that is what Prince thinks about the fight against Galamsey.
Thank you very much. Right. I'm happy my colleague admits Galamsey didn't start yesterday and it didn't start 3 months ago. This government has been in place over the last 105, 110 days.
Which is which?
Galamsey didn't just start.
Which is which?
Some
5 or 10.
Galamsey didn't start some 3 months ago. If you look at settlement and development planning carefully, you would realize that what previous governments did to curb this Galamsey menace is nothing to write home about. The last 8 years, the best approach to solving Galamsey, the last 8 years, is the certain president going to the hometown of his opponent to label them as headquarters of Galamsey.
Politicization.
8 years. Now, by the grace of God, Ghanaians have successfully done away.
You didn't see the task force?
I'm making a point. Now, we are lucky enough to have a serious government.
From Chebi.
Look at the work the single sector minister, single-handedly, is doing all over the country to help
this is how you don't get
Galamsey. Okay. Sometimes I sit back and watch the minister and I feel the pain and the passion and commitment with which he's fighting this debilitating menace facing our country. Right. I talked about development and settlement planning. There are local villages in this country at 6 p.m. The whole community is shut down. No commercial activity, nothing goes on, and the entire village comes to a standstill just at 6 p.m. I had the privilege and the opportunity to be part of Nana Addo's campaign way back in 2007, up to date. There were villages you visit, and then the mere fact that the flag bearer of an opposition party is coming to campaign in that village, it is a whole activity for the village for the whole day. Farmers don't go to farm, fishermen don't go out, and they all converge at that point. And the campaign rally is an activity that brings the whole village to a closure or to a halt. The point I'm trying to establish is that we as a government have the best solution to this Galamsey menace. And let me explain further.
Quickly.
When these right, you gave him a lot of time for him to dance around, and I was struggling to make out very well. So the point I'm trying to establish is that settlements and local communities suddenly, because of this Galamsey menace, they have what we call gangs. A Galamsey gang may have about 10 people or 25 people. If you have about 10 Galamsey gangs coming together to identify a pit to mine gold over there, you're talking about 250 people moving into a small community to mine gold over there. That's a gang. People will start selling kinky there. People will start running transportation to and fro. Foreigners will troop in to come and buy gold and trade business. A lot of commercial activity will revolve around the illegal activity of Galamsey in that locality. This is where the minister has a problem. Stopping the Galamsey will mean depriving all these individuals who are directly or indirectly connected to the illegal activity through which they make economic sustenance. The minister has a difficult and an arduous task and responsibility. But the good news is that my party, who by the grace of God has been favored to be given the mandate to govern this country, is implementing a policy called One District, One Factory. If a district is lucky enough to have a commercial entity, a factory, established within the district, then you tell the people, stop Galamsey because it is polluting your water bodies. And from the uphill where the river flows to the down where it settles, all the water is polluted. Stop Galamsey. Then you are lucky enough and a factory is established in that enclave. When you stop the Galamsey, you have a better work to do, which will not pollute your environment. The woman selling the kenke to the Galamseyers will not run out of business because there is a factory over there still. People will be doing business and commercial activity will still be at its peak. We are not just pushing Galamsey to a halt, but we are creating a proper alternative livelihood. This is better than going to stand uphill to say Chebi is the hometown and the headquarters of Galamsey. So this is a more sensitive government and a more committed government to solving the problem. Listen to my submission. What I'm saying
David is wrapping up.
Okay. What I'm saying is this government has studied the problem. This government understands the problem. This government is less than 3 months in office and is prescribing a proper, sensible, and sensitive approach to solving this problem, better than you did in 8 years.
Okay, I'm grateful. Prince, all that he's saying is that he thinks this way of resolving this problem is better than what has been done.
That's no problem. You see, I was hoping that he would not politicize it and not try to own it as a potential achievement of his government and party, so that we can all come on board and help. And also, rather than casting aspersions,
you think he has not done that?
No, he's not done that. I mean, listeners and viewers can see that. Now, I've combed through the MPP's this manifesto,
right?
And I've combed through the other one, the Akufo-Addo 2008. I don't see any clear. In fact, there's nothing about how they're going to solve it. So, I mean,
on a legal mind,
they haven't. What I've rather seen or heard the Deputy Attorney General say is that, and it's conflicting with what the minister is trying to do, is that if they attempt to stop the Galamsey, the people have a case against government because the Minerals Commission has given them the licenses, state institutions have, acquiesced and all that. Then even the chiefs, some of them are, the ones who gave the lands and so on. We've heard about an Ananas tape coming. We've heard about politicians, media persons, priests, chiefs, etc., all involved. And we've heard about some regional chairman of theirs who's supposed to be the main man behind a lot of Galamsey. Now, during the run-up to the elections, we saw the vice president now, today's vice president, in a picture with Chinese people, collecting money from them. You saw that picture too, I'm sure. It made the rounds on social media.
Which picture is that? I didn't see picture.
I'll show it to you. It's on my phone. I'll show it to you.
Collecting money as in what?
Is this one of your solutions?
Please. Prince. We have an issue. The Chinese are the heart of it. The Indians, you see, there are foreigners also involved in this. Now, you have gone out there to canvas for money.
Right.
The Chinese people.
Right.
Prince,
it's obvious this man does not
allegation that this is an allegation that I do not think I can substantiate it.
Nami said he collected money from Galamsey.
Yes, so
he went to collect money from Chinese people.
I don't think you can substantiate it.
No, but he collected. No, I'll give you evidence. They know it for a fact.
Well, but we do not know the vice president collecting money from Chinese. So. Please leave that one and go on.
They did.
No,
so
we can't substantiate that.
So the bottom line is that Chinese persons are heavily involved in the Galamsey activities. Their equipment and technology is what is being used primarily to spoil rivers and water bodies in this Galamsey business. The Indians also, to some extent, have been financiers of this process. We were told that about 2.5 billion was spirited out of this country. The balance of trade between us and another country, namely India, measured up to that, and we're told that it was due to gold that was smuggled out using this Galamsey process. It means that it is lucrative. Now, we have the minerals. If we can have proper laws governing these things, if we have the lands, and I've seen some of the chiefs saying that we should manage our lands better, including even Accra chiefs saying let's look at how the resale of Accra lands are going and so on. If we can agree as a people, then let's follow due process and let's do things in the interest of this country. I'm sure we'll get further than to have the politicization.
Right.
I'm going to tell you guys.
Just a quick one. The fight against Galamsey. I have taken time to listen to my colleague, and I'm wondering what they have been doing the last 8 years. If you are full of these brilliant ideas to solve the problem, the last 8 years,
you didn't allow us. You didn't allow us.
Who didn't allow you?
You were in
power, and then you are here.
You were
the last 8 years.
The Galamsey people are on tape to have said that they financed your party, the Ghanaian Galamseyers.
Right.
On video.
Right.
You see,
right.
Your own station. Your own station has shown Galamseyers saying that they financed your party.
Government NAGRA showdown loans over biometric registration of workers with SSNID. The story says that at least 457,000 plus public sector workers have so far complied with a directive from government to register biometrically. Now, we're told, however, that 26,000 workers are yet to comply with the directive. Now, this means that that 25,000 or 26,000 plus will not be paid this month by the Controller and Accountant General's Department. Now, the NAGRA, that's the National Association of Graduate Teachers, and NAT are up in arms, and they have spoken about massive unrest if the Ministry of Finance goes ahead to instruct the Controller to delete the names of about 13,000 of its members from the payroll starting this month. David, let me begin from you. So this is an attempt to raid the government payroll of ghost names, but we're told by NAGRA and NAT that some persons are not indeed ghosts. They claim about 13,000 persons are not ghosts, and that they should give them time to go and register biometrically.
Thank you very much, Bright. But again, let me say that you gave my colleague so much time to talk about Galamsey. After I had about 3 minutes, I was asked to halt my discussion. He came in again,
you're wasting the
and
time
then
right
he
now.
did back and forth, back and forth.
You're wasting the time, so go ahead.
Right. My point on this Galamsey finally is
David,
that...
I thought you...
No, let me just wrap up. Please, let me just wrap up.
NAGRA is going on strike,
Just
and you want to still talk about
Just a
Galamsey.
second.
I have just about 6 more minutes.
Absolutely.
Okay?
Don't worry.
For Galamsey, you know we've just started this process.
I
And
know.
certainly we'll have more
Right.
time to talk about it.
Absolutely.
Let's shift to the
But
government.
Bright, you know, it is
issue.
very unfair for my colleague to come and sit here after you've had 8 years. You didn't solve
Don't worry,
Galamsey problem.
don't worry.
Now a better government
NAGRA
is in
and
place
NAGRA
solving
teachers
the
are going
problem.
on strike.
You are
Okay,
coming
David,
to talk
nurses
about.
are on
Anyway,
strike.
so
David, I'm
about
grateful.
NAGRA, the point is that I am so happy that we have a more serious government in place. Recently, the government of the day through the finance ministry purged the government payroll of 50,000 ghost names. Right. 50,000 names were existing on Ghana's payroll. Salaries were drawn in the names of these individuals, and they did not exist. And we've lived with the ghost on our payroll for over 8 years of the previous government. They still have a rep here this morning talking. That government. 50,000 ghost names. So really, I agree. I listened to Adepoku of Nagrat.
Right.
And he says they needed extension for majority of the National Graduate Teachers Association and their members to really get their biometric details captured onto the government system. You remember I led my Vote Count Alliance, and we were pushing for what we call the system we call validation, so that your biometric details will be captured. We say the list has 50,000, assuming 50,000 names. Let all the 50,000 individuals submit their biometric details and let them be captured. So those who don't show up, it is believed you don't exist. That is one of the best ways of purging the system of ghost names. The finance ministry has deleted 50,000 names. It makes a lot of sense for us in an attempt to recoup stolen money and purge the system of ghost names, thievery and corruption, and back on that path. However, the system can't be effective when the majority and principal stakeholders are left in the whole implementation process. If the Controller and Accountant General intends to clean the system, there is a need for a consultative approach.
Right.
Nagrat, TEU, these workers must be made part of the cleansing process, because we are told they are going to be denied April salary because their biometric details were not captured on time. I can understand the pain and the difficulty NAGRAT members are going through. My personal position is that I think they must work in a consultative manner to get the principal stakeholders appreciate the situation better. Right. If they are calling for extension, I do not think it's far-fetched.
Right.
However,
that's what they are asking.
However, the fact must be established. 50,000 Ghanaians were drawing from government consolidated fund. 8 years. Thievery. And that is what the government is cleaning. And that is what I'm wondering what my NDC man will say about that. 8 years, 50,000 ghosts. Salaries were drawn in their names.
Okay.
And that is why we are where we are.
The sad thing is that the NPP are forgetting they are now in government. They are busy doing campaign political talk, calling people names, insulting everybody from parliamentarians. The vice president says they are ignorant, He's also calling Tewu and Nagrat names. We've seen that Nessus come out.
I haven't called. Please, you should have listened to me better. I'm saying I appreciate their pain. I'm saying I appreciate their pain. The approach must be more consultative.
Very well.
Please. You need to record that.
Very well.
Please.
You see, so
right.
He did not call them.
Yesterday,
only asked if they are asking.
Did you see the Nessus? Did you see the Nessus at the Ministry of Health?
I am speaking.
My good friend.
I appreciate the difficulty of
misbehaving on the set.
Then you sit here and tell me. Then you sit here and tell me I called them names.
David, you guys are misbehaving.
David, I'm running out of words.
Tell him I didn't call them names.
I've told him. So
the vice president called people names.
Can you imagine?
No,
do you know what you want to say? Do you really know what you want to say?
Now, you see, even just recently, when the nurses went on their demonstration, the Minister of Health is saying that they were calling him ignorant. They are ignorant. That's what the Minister of Health is saying. They are calling everybody names. Now, Nagrat and Tewu and others, what are they saying? They said they have worked. When you work, you deserve to be paid, isn't it? Okay. Now, they are taking the lazy man's approach to solving the problem. He is now saying it's a political problem that started in 8 years ago and they are solving it. So it means it's an NDC problem. You have been in the media for long. You've been in the media for more than 8 years. Is it the truth that this is the first, within 8 years, that's when you started hearing about ghost names? Was ghost names not a thing even in the Kufuor era? You see, we cannot live our lives. You see, it's unfortunate. We are all Ghanaians. NDC means well, and we want Ghana to succeed. And that's why we're holding NDP to it.
Not call for extension.
No, it's not about calling for extension. They are calling for those who have paid, who have worked, to be paid.
Right.
And they deserve it.
They want them back on the system because
there was no business removing them from the system. Now, we are not saying that if there are ghosts, they should not be removed. In fact, NDC removed a lot of ghost names. If you recall, National Service, for example, there are lots of ghost names that are removed. So there's a principle, every administration comes to try and improve on the system. We introduce various things, including the biometrics and stuff, into the system. They just make proposals, we implement them. Now, if we make proposals to, as a government, you should be implementing. You say you are part of Let My Vote Count.
Okay,
you are not in government.
So for you, they should not have been taken off the system at all.
You see,
when they were given the chance to go and register and get their data properly captured.
There are state institutions which have mandates. Some of them are cross-cutting. Now, for example, SNIT is supposed to have done this biometric thing. SNIT has nothing to do with Accountant General and the payment system. If I've worked, you have to pay me. Now, if you, SNIT, did not go down to the people and you expect the people to come to you and you don't provide them with transportation or make it easy for them to get their biometrics, whose fault is it?
Okay.
The person has paid. He has a transaction between him and the employer. So he has to be paid. Now, it is for the government, therefore, it's the responsibility of the government to do what has been the gap and not to punish them. May Day is coming. You see, MPP should realize that May Day will come. Workers will speak. You want to do free SHS and you are punishing teachers already? We have built all the beautiful hospitals and
do you understand the issue?
Instead of putting...
All right.
Do you understand the issue?
Nurses,
okay.
Do
you really understand the issue?
And then you are calling them names. Keep calling people names.
Do you understand the issue?
You are in government and you are calling people names.
Do you understand the issue?
All right.
I'll show you the picture.
Prince Derek Eje is a member of the NDC's communication team. David Asante is a member of the NPP communications team. Gentlemen, I'm grateful for your Tuesday morning and thanks so much for joining us. We'll take a break now and when we come back, we'll tell you what's happening in the world of sports. Stay with us on NewDay.